When we think about lower body exercises, the first exercise that comes to mind is the squat. And that's basically because the squat is the building block to almost all lower body movements. It's a movement that's done in our everyday life that promotes good knee and hip health and balance between our lower extremities if it's done correctly. So the first thing we want to consider when getting into a squat, we want to make sure that our foot stance is a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And we want to outstretch our arms for balance. We also want to make sure that our core is tight and engaged. And then we want to sit back as if we were going to sit back in a chair. Ideally, we want to make sure that our knees are kept behind our toes. We're looking straight ahead. Our chest is upright. Quad dominant squats will present with a more upright torso versus hip dominant squats with a more forward torso lean. Neither is inherently wrong. Things that we need to consider are femur length, torso length, and ankle mobility. Common errors include lack of core engagement, shifting your weight from your heels to your toes, or knee valgus with your knees caving in as you go down into the squat. The squat can be progressed by adding a dumbbell. This is going to increase resistance to the squat, and it can be regressed by using a chair for support. To perform a split squat, you're going to take one step forward as if you're about to perform a lunge. Make sure the heel of your back foot is raised. Keep your chest straight and upright and your core tight and engaged. Slowly lower your back knee until it almost touches the ground. Think of making a 90-degree angle with both your front and back leg. Knees should remain in line with your toes, making sure that your front knee does not travel past your toe. Common errors include putting too much weight on the rear leg instead of using it as a balancer, leaning forward from the hips instead of keeping the pelvis tucked under, and then raising onto the toes instead of keeping the front foot flat while coming up out of the split squat. Split squat progressions include elevating the back foot or doing a Bulgarian split squat. You can also add weight to this to increase resistance, or regressions would be using a TRX band to hold onto to give yourself a little bit more balance and support as you go in to the split squat. To perform a Romanian dumbbell deadlift, stand straight with your feet hip width apart. Hold your dumbbell in your hands in front of your thighs with your arms hanging about shoulder width apart. To start, create a slight bend in both knees, roll your shoulders back, and squeeze your shoulder blades together to engage your upper back. Then you're going to inhale and push or press your butt back, making sure to bend and hinge at the hips. Make sure your back is in neutral spine as you go down, using your dumbbells to trace the line of your shins. Tracing the line of your shins helps to keep the dumbbells in the right place. Stop hinging when you feel a stretch in your hamstrings. You don't have to go lower than that. Exhale and then use your hamstrings and glutes to pull your torso back up into the starting position. Common errors include bending forward instead of pushing hips back, not keeping the chest elevated, and not focusing on the tension in the hamstrings. To regress the RDL, you can use a kettlebell on risers to control the depth of the extension, or you can progress the RDL to a single leg dumbbell deadlift. To perform a glute bridge, lie on your back, getting your heels as close to your glutes as possible, and bending at the knees. Think about sit-up position. You want to keep your arms at your sides, palms down for support. Then you want to lift your hips off the ground until your knees, hips, and shoulders are in a straight line, making sure you are squeezing your butt cheeks together. Almost imagine having a string pulling you up from the center of your pelvis. Make sure to hold this position for a few seconds before returning to starting position. Common errors include going too high in your bridge, shifting the focus from your hips to your lower back, Or 2, allowing the hamstrings to compensate and not driving up with the glutes. And 3, not keeping your core engaged throughout the movement, causing instability in your hip and pelvic region. So to regress the basic glute bridge, you can use a foam roller under your knees right above the top of your calves and practice hip thrusts until you are able to get in and perform a basic glute bridge. And then to progress it, you can use a dumbbell on your hip region, or you can do single leg glute bridge raises.